and bolts of being a pharmacy technician. Here we are with the pharmacy abbreviations, also known as pharmacy SIG codes. You really need to know these because you're going to see these on just about every prescription you ever see for the rest of your life. So these are very important. Watch this section again over and over until you get it. We'll make kind of a game out of some of them. I really recommend the 3x5 index cards to try to just have some repetition. And then also there's the supplemental material you can look at that has a more comprehensive list of all the pharmacy abbreviations. Now the ones that we cover in this particular section will be a little more honed in onto what you should be looking for in the test, in the exam. But you can always look at the supplemental materials to get a more on the whole look of what you're looking for. So why do doctors even write in this funny way? QD, BID, all that? Well, the first reason is it just takes less time. Doctors don't have much time. They have appointments to keep. You can quickly write something like that whenever you have quick SIG codes. The second reason is there's just a finite amount of space on a prescription. If you wrote, take 1 to 2 tablets by mouth every 6 hours, before meals and at bedtime, quantity of 30, 6 refills, whatever the case may be. It takes a long time to write all that. So you do it as quick and as fast as you can do with taking up as little space on that prescription as you can, because you may have multiple medications to write for. So study this next section hard and study it often. Let's first look at these SIG codes that say how often we should be taking the medications. We'll look at the first one. It says QD or Q daily. Most people will recommend that Q daily is what is written because QD looks like QO, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it can look like a few other things. For instance, 4 down, you'll see QID, and if you say Q daily, it's a little bit easier to see. BID, think bicycle, okay? Bi, 2, twice daily. And then TID, it's think tricycle. TID, 3 times a day. QID, you can think like the word quad. Quad, like quad means 4, so 4 times a day. And then after that, most prescribers just start writing 5x a day, 6x a day, 7x a day, and so on. Past that, you might see some every so many hours. You can see Q 24 hours. Anytime you see Q, you can replace the word every for what you see there. So Q 24 hours is every 24 hours, or Q 24H here, every 24 hours. Q 12H, every 12 hours. And then I just put Q blank H, because you can have Q 2H every 2 hours, Q 5H every 5 hours. Whatever the prescriber deems appropriate for the prescription, they may put it like that. You'll also see QOD, which just means every other day, which again gets kind of confusing if they just write QD as well, because sometimes it's hard to read. And we'll look at some actual prescriptions so I can show you just how hard it is to read some of these. Now, one thing that's important to note is that prescribers sometimes don't know this very well. They're not going to know it as well as you're going to know it, and sometimes they just make up their own stuff on this. So look out for sometimes whenever they just write it however they want to, and it'll be in a shorthand that you probably understand, but it may not be the official SIG codes that you'll learn here. Always on the examination, the certification examination, you'll get the proper SIG codes, of course, because that's what they're testing you on. One last note here on the Q 12 hours, Q 24 hours. Sometimes they won't put H, and they'll put a little circle. It looks like kind of like a degree sign up at the top. Okay, let's try to do something a little different with these next few slides. I'm going to show up a SIG code up on the top, and you're going to try to tell me what that SIG code means, and then a few seconds later I'll show you at the bottom. So you've memorized a few of them on that slide, and then you're going to regurgitate to me on these next slides. So we'll bring up the first one. You can see it reads QID. So think, what does QID stand for? All right, we'll check out, see if you're right. 4 times a day. If you said 4 times a day, you are correct. Let's check out the next one. You can help your scoring at home. We'll check QOD. QOD. What does that mean? QOD. Does it mean once daily? Does it mean twice daily? Every other day? It means every other day. Good if you had that one. So now let's go to how often. How often are we taking these? I have QHS, every night at bedtime. Generally, QHS just means every night at bedtime. QAM, exactly what I said earlier. Q means every. AM means morning. And then QPM means every evening. Every evening. Here's a good one. AC and PC. A, you'll always hear means before whenever it's like this. So A, C, C. If you ever know Spanish, you know comida is a meal. So before meals. AC is before food or before meals. PC is after. You can think post. Post means after. And post C, like I said, I like to think comida. But if you're not into Spanish, just remember it. PC means after food or after meals. And then a real important one is PRN, just means as needed. So study this material, PRN. So let's look at a couple of these and let's see what they say. How about PC? You know I covered it earlier. I want you to think, what does PC mean? Let's check out what you got. Did you say after meals? If you got after meals, then you're really putting it into your brain quickly. Now, you're going to have to look at the supplemental material and maybe watch this lecture several times over to really get these. I've recommended it 1,000 times. Flashcards. Just buy yourself some 3x5 index cards, write the SIG code on one side, and write the translation of it on the other side, and you will succeed. Let's go on to one more. How about QHS? What does QHS mean? If I tell you to take one tablet by mouth QHS, how often am I telling you to take it? How about one tablet by mouth every night at bedtime? Every night at bedtime. Very good if you got that. So now we've discussed how often. Let's move on to how or where to take it. If I say, by mouth, or if it's an injection, we're going to need to be able to define that on the label. So we'll start out with IM, that's intramuscularly, okay? We're going to put a needle here, that's an injection, goes straight into the arm, the leg, right into the muscle. What if it's not going quite as deep? So IM's fairly deep. The next one, SQ, we're going to call it sub-Q. Sometimes you'll see it written SUB-Q, SUB-Q, but it means subcutaneously, and that is not near as deep, okay? Just into the fatty tissue. A lot of times you'll see it given right behind the arm, or right to the back side of the arm. Next one is PO. That one you're going to see on most prescriptions in a retail pharmacy because it's mainly oral medications. It means by mouth. Take one tablet. PO means take one tablet by mouth. Last one there on the left side is SL. Sublingually just means under the tongue. Whenever you hear sub, okay, submarine is under the water. Sublingual, lingual means tongue, so under the tongue. 3 on the right side here, you're probably pretty familiar with the top one. IV, intravenously. It means obviously exactly what it says, inside the vein. And then the last two, PR and PV. PR, much like PO, is by mouth. Now we're talking PR per rectum, okay, by rectum. So you want to take it rectally when you see something PR. If you're thinking about what type of medication might go PR, think suppositories, okay? Suppositories will have to go into the rectum. And then you could also get some vaginal suppositories that would be entered PV. Okay, that's vaginally. So things that need to be inserted into the body rectally or vaginally, PR or PV. All right. Now, I've separated these out because these are very similar on this slide. How and where to take. We're looking at the right eye and right ear. So eyes and ears here. So all eyes and ears on this slide. We'll start with O. O-D. Anytime you hear D in a situation like this, you want to think of the right side. So O, ophthalmic, meaning eye, and D, meaning right. So right eye. The next one is OS. OS meaning left eye. So S in a SIG code here meaning to the left and O meaning ophthalmic. So left eye. And then the last one there, OU, meaning both eyes. Okay? No Oklahoma fans here. No Boomer Sooner. Just OU does not mean University of Oklahoma. It means both eyes. There on the right side, AD means the right ear. Some people will tell me they help remember that A means ear because it's like audio. Like you hear your music, you hear your Beats by Dre, you hear them in your audio in your ear. So AD, again, D meaning right ear. And then AS, again, S meaning left, A for audio in the ear, left ear. And then AU, both ears. So when you see U, and you're thinking both, and then we can look at the A or the O, whether it means ear or eye. So here we go again. I've got this nice blank screen. AS. Think if I say take 1 drop AS. Did you say left ear? Left ear is correct. A, like audio, is ear. S, in this case, means left. Okay? Our next SIG code, we're going to have SL. So if I say take 1 tablet SL Q6 hours, what's SL? It means under the tongue. Remember, sub, like submarine, under the tongue. Lingual tongue, under the tongue. All right, so here's some miscellaneous ones, and you really will see these fairly often. C with a bar over it. The letter C with a bar over it, that means with. And it's just easy to write. Many doctors will write W with a slash after it, and that's fine, but traditionally, C with a bar over it means with. And then S with a bar over it. The letter S is in Sam with a bar over it means without. So with, C with a bar over it, without, S with a bar over it. On down, remember when we had the trivia question a while ago for SL, sublingual, under the tongue? Well, the type of tablets you would put under the tongue are ODT tablets, orally disintegrating. You can think like meltable tablets, that sort of thing. That's ODT, orally disintegrating tablets. And then GTT, or just the plural version, GTTS, that means a drop, okay, or drops. So when you see GTT, you're thinking eardrops, eye drops, whatever kind of drops there may be. That's what GTT is. All right, so let's look at some medication abbreviations. These are common abbreviations that stand for a medication and not necessarily a how or how often. So the first one is APAP. That's acetaminophen. You may right now just call it Tylenol. That's a really important one to know because it'll be written as APAP for Tylenol, but many medications have Tylenol in them, and you'll see it written on the prescription with APAP. How about aspirin, the next one? Aspirin, you'll just see written as ASA. A is in apple, S is in Sam, A. That's the reason it's ASA instead of just like say ASP is because aspirin is known as acetyl salicylic acid, so you can see the ASA there. And then the last one, hydrochlorothiazide. Man, thank goodness they have a shortened version of that word. Can you imagine having to write that word on there? So again, that's why the doctors even have these SIG codes, but it's a HCTZ. And that's how many people will even refer to it in a pharmacy as, hey, can you grab me a bottle of HCTZ? So there we have it. We have the pharmacy abbreviations. Learn these, learn them well. I mentioned the index cards because they're just a great way to learn them. Look at one side, you wonder what it is. You look at the other side, you find out what it is. So really use those hard. Study these hard. We're going to have another section on this where we do some real-world examples, and that's coming in the next section.